So, how do you feel about the name PS2 Forever?
PS2 Forever? Like,
Now, not four, not with the letter 4.
Okay, with the letters.
The only reason that I threw that out to be like the placeholder for the podcast is because I've been diving into like GameCube mods and stuff like that, and one of the main pages, like a forum for that, is just GC Forever, and I just kind of like it. So I put that down as just the placeholder, but I don't know. Did you have, out of the list that we had, did you have anything that you liked more? Because I'm not super sold on any of them.
Where was the list? Did you even add anything to the list?
I probably didn't. Probably didn't.
Because I know I like rapid fired out a few name ideas. There it is.
I like to outsource my thinking to you most of the time.
Okay.
When it comes to like names and stuff.
Yeah, so I had 3 in there. I had Analog Schtick, which is obviously a play on joystick. Even though we don't really touch that anymore.
I think this will go there. I think that's my plan. We could just make a new YouTube channel, but you know what? I think this could just go there.
Yeah, I know. I think it's fine because the name Joystick is such a good name anyway, you know? Like, why?
I love it.
Yeah, and it has like a cute, like, little pink aesthetic to it, and I think it's fine. Or you could change the aesthetic if you want. It's not like, it's not like it's
I think I'll
busy.
I thought about making like the color scheme for like any of the graphics and stuff blue and white, because that's what I associate with PlayStation. But looking at a lot of the branding for PS2 specifically,
I was going to say it's black and blue.
Well, there's a lot of yellow.
That too.
Like if you look at the like packaging for like the Slim and a lot of the controllers and peripherals.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if there was a point where it changed, but it was like black and yellow for a long time, and I'm like, that's kind of
No, I always remember it being black and yellow. I think.
Yeah, I mean, today I associate PlayStation with white and blue, but
right. I also had PS2 Pals, which it's just alliteration. That's the only thing it's got going for it there. It's not really like clever or anything. And then Dual Shocked.
That might be a thing.
That's a reference, obviously, to the Dual Shock controller, but it's, like Dual Shocked because it sounds fun, I guess. Like
I like that, but it is one letter away from Dual Shockers, which is the name of another news site.
Oh, is it? I've never heard of that. All right, then. Well, maybe we don't want to be affiliated with them, depending on, I don't know.
I thought about Dual Schtick, then that's like combining 2 of them. I really like the idea of incorporating the Dual Shock into the name in some way, but I don't know how.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, Analog Schtick, like, I remember specifically in, like, all the PS2 manuals and all, like, the game tutorials, they never call it on the controller, they never call it the joystick. They always call it the analog stick. And I always thought that was interesting, that they
And they got that analog button on the controller itself.
Yeah, what was that even for? Wait, wouldn't that turn off the analog sticks or something?
No. So, you know how, like, a normal controller now, it'll have analog triggers. So, like, the more you press the trigger, it's not digital. So, like, it's digital or analog, and digital is, like, on or off, but analog is, like, there's a gradient.
Oh, that makes sense.
So,
okay.
Yeah, but it makes perfect sense. But it wasn't for the triggers, which would have been great. It was for the freaking face buttons.
That's so stupid. Okay.
They had pressure-sensitive face buttons.
I never had a single game that made use of that, though. Like, that I can remember.
There was one game in the launch lineup of...
It was Evergrace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The harder you hit it, the more damage you did.
Well, and I couldn't... That's so... It's not like it didn't even matter based on how I was playing the game, at least. I mean, with you, it might have had an actual effect, but I was using an Xbox controller, so the lily pad or whatever software didn't have that in it.
So how do you... Okay, name. Do you feel one way or the other?
What, if we have our names in the podcast?
Do you feel... No. I mean the name of the podcast.
The name of the podcast. I think my favorite is Analog Schtick.
I think I like Schtick too, because we're putting it on the Schtick channel.
Right.
Analog Schtick.
It's clever-ish.
Welcome to episode 1 of Analog Schtick, the PlayStation...
Sorry. All right, I gotta go.
How about you do it?
Welcome to Analog Schtick, the PlayStation 2 review podcast, where we attempt to sort of halfway review every title on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I feel like that's insurmountable, but you know what? whatever, we're doing it. If we don't do it, who's gonna care?
I mean,
we're gonna miss out on like 75 sports games. I don't think anyone's gonna notice.
Like 12 Maddens or however many there were.
There's like I think 20 Maddens on the system.
Oh,
it might be just barely an exaggeration, but I think it's close to that.
Okay.
And maybe if you combine like other football games with other football games, I'm sure we're in like the 70s, because this console had a very long tail. So
I was going to say,
being released into like the 2014s, I think.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure you could make a podcast all about exclusively Madden games. I'm sure there is one out there somewhere. But that's not going to be us. So if that's what you're here for, go away.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Adjust your standards, please.
However long we go with this podcast, I want the last episode to be discussing FIFA 14, I think, which was the last game released for the system.
Aww. What a good send-off.
Yeah, FIFA 14.
Yeah.
So I think that means it was released on 3 generations, because PS2, 3, and 4.
Oh, for some reason, I thought you were just going to throw out PS1 in there, and I was going to be like, holy crap.
It would be funny.
Isn't technically the PS2 still pretty popular in like Brazil or something?
Yeah, so I don't completely understand the Brazil situation, but from what I think I know, I'm pretty sure they have like super high like import tariffs on stuff.
Oh.
So, the PS2 isn't manufactured in Brazil, I don't think.
They still got a factory out there going.
But yeah, that's kind of like why retro consoles are big there, PS2 specifically.
Oh, okay. Just because
stuff like FIFA was still being released.
Right. Because it's like they don't have to, if they keep, playing on the old console, they don't have to fork over all the cash for the new ones. Is that okay?
I think it's like ridiculous, like double or triple the price of. Like,
oh my gosh, that's awful.
I don't know, haven't really done any research. Only know from like hearing people talk about it, but yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
As we're talking about the initial like launch library, the launch window games, we both grew up with the PS2. What was like the first games that you remember playing on the PS2?
So I remember when we got the PS2. I remember my dad and I went to Walmart, and I remember like getting the PS2 box, and I remember picking out the games behind the glass cabinet. And I was a big fan of Spyro on the PS1. That was like my jam. So my first game, and it's a real stinker, but we'll get to that way later.
Oh yeah.
My first game was Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. And, like a collectathon platformer type thing. If you're not familiar with Spyro, that's what that is. And then my dad got 007 Nightfire.
Yeah.
And SOCOM. I remember him playing a lot of SOCOM. It was either 1 or 2, but I'm not sure which one. I'm assuming it was 1 because the release dates for Spyro and Nightfire and the first SOCOM were all 2002. And that's when I think we got our PS2. So I would have been 4 years old, and I was already a gamer. So
that's so crazy that you were that cognizant of what was happening to you at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when were you born?
What?
Are you 1 year? You're 1 year older than me. So
yeah. I mean, just not quite. I mean, like 6 months older than you, I suppose.
So I was just developing long-term memories at the time of the PS2. We got it. I don't know how much later. It was something that my dad just bought, I think.
Just cause?
I mean, I remember there being no PS2 and then there being a PS2. I don't remember what led to the PS2. But yeah, I was playing on the SNES before this.
And was that something that your dad just had around as well?
Yeah, that was something that he had. I don't like, I wouldn't be able to speak as definitively as to the first game I played for it, but I think one of the earliest games that I can remember playing, and let me check the freaking release date for this so I don't like clearly get it wrong, was Pac-Man World 2. Is like a Pac-Man platformer.
Is it also like a collectathon thing?
Yeah, it's a collectathon, but like it's not like you collect to progress. It's you just go through the levels.
Nice.
Yeah, it came out 2002, so that very well could have been my first game.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I recently replayed it, and it was it's kind of a stinker, but it's okay.
Did you do a review of that one? separately?
I
don't remember.
I have planned to do a review of that literally since I started doing reviews.
Oh.
It's been something that's been on the list.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure if that was my first game, but that was definitely one of the first games. What about any games from the actual launch lineup, Morgan?
Heck no.
No.
I've never, I mean, like I've heard of Madden, right? I've heard of,
really? You've heard of it? It's a pretty obscure title.
Right, I know, isn't it? It's like this funky little indie thing they got going on with football. I don't know. Yeah. And, like, I know what the NHL is. And, what was the other one?
I know what billiards is.
Right, yeah. And, like, I think I'd heard of SSX. I mean, I think I was, like, vaguely aware that it was snowboarding. Never touched anything on this list. So, how about yourself?
The only game that I, like, have... Well, actually, two, I forgot. Ridge Racer and Smuggler's Run. I think are the only two that I remember playing. And Ridge Racer, I couldn't actually remember playing it, but I definitely remembered owning it, I guess. Smuggler's Run, I played that game a little bit, but whenever I jump back into it, I'm like, man, I do not remember any of this, like, at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking at the list here, that's the only two that I have any memory of playing. So these are, like, all pretty foreign franchises to me.
Right. And, like, when it comes to, like, certain genres of games, like, if you're listening, like, we have, there's obviously certain genres that we're just not familiar with at all. So we're not the best equipped to, like, provide a lot of insight or, like, insightful, commentary on them. So.
Oh, yeah. Just wait till we get to platformers.
Right.
I'll be all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, the launch library is pretty much exclusively sports, fighting,
racing.
Uh-huh. Well, I guess there's 3 shooters.
Yeah, there's some...
I meant to make, like, a little breakdown of everything, but I didn't.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's okay. There are X number of shooters. So, we didn't, I think this is important to maybe state at the top. We did not, like, get super in-depth into any of these games. Like...
Oh, no.
No. I don't think I played any of these for more than 30 minutes. Like, I essentially treated it like a demo where I'm just, like, playing, trying to get a feel for, like, some of it, and if it loses me, it loses me. But yeah.
Right.
Morgan, do you have a similar experience, or
I think the longest...
pour hundreds of hours into this?
No, absolutely not. I think the longest I played, it was sort of like, I tried to make it as, like, organic as possible just for the sake of my own sanity. So, like, if I was, like, actually enjoying something, then I was going to put more time into it. If I, like, hated it, then I stopped after, like, 15 minutes just so that I wouldn't, like, lose it later on. So I think the longest I put into one of these games was, like, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. I think the game I put the most amount of time into is Time Splitters, and that's just because I liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of these were just like, oh, I'm playing it. Yeah, that's enough.
Right.
I got it.
I get the gist.
Because what is it? It's 28 times 30 minutes-ish a game.
So what, like,
divided
14 hours?
60, 14 hours, yeah. Yeah, it's actually, that's not that unreasonable. Oh, that's how much time we did put into it. Yeah, that's a good amount of time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, just throwing that out there in case there's any freaking, I don't know, Smuggler's Run fans that are upset that we didn't play it until it got good 15 hours in or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah. All
right.
Let's dive in to number 1. Morgan, what did you think about Cue Ball Billiards Master?
So, the method in which I am playing these games, I could not find a way to obtain myself a copy of this title. If I'm honest, I was not no skin off my back, really.
Weren't really hurting for that.
Yeah, I know. I was so distraught that I could not play Cue Ball Billiards Master. But I did watch some gameplay on the YouTube. It is pool. It is a game of billiards.
Mm-hmm.
I remember looking at the NPC that was, or I guess, like, the stand-in for the player. that was on screen.
A stand-in?
Well, like you see like an icon of a guy off to the right or whatever when you go to like hit the ball. And
I thought I was playing as the pool stick.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to call him, but he was the epitome of early 2000s fashion, and I thought that was hilarious. So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
That was
in my notes. I really love the intro sequence because it shows off how badass pool is, and it was just like this amazing late 90s, early 2000s montage of pool and hot women really loving pool.
Was it live action footage or was it?
Oh yeah, it was live action.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is.
It looked like it was like a larger man, with sunglasses inside, obviously slicked black.
Yes.
Hair, just like probably into a ponytail. Oh. It was awesome.
That does sound awesome. Very nostalgic of our childhood, I suppose. That's what all the adults looked like back in the day.
So this game was developed by a company called Ornrith, no idea. Published by Take-Two though, so they're still around.
All right.
Got a 65 on Metacritic, and I gotta be honest, that's probably too high. I did play this, not for very long. I played one game of it, and then I played another to record footage for the video version, and it's pool. The only other pool games I can remember playing are like, is there pool on the Wii for like a Wii Sports?
For Wii Sports,
I think the Wii Play has pool.
It might. I only had the OG copy of Wii Sports, so I don't know about that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I think Wii Play had pool.
Right.
So yeah, if I gotta pick one, I think I'm gonna go Wii Play. Honestly, I'm sorry, but yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. It's more of an immersive thing versus just sitting there like a schmuck with 2 analog sticks trying to,
Yeah. They really had not mastered. This is gonna be a recurring theme throughout all of this. They really had not mastered what and when to use analog sticks and the rest of the controller.
Oh God, no.
I found the controls to be extremely stiff and sensitive at the same time, which is very impressive. It had like a weird ramp to like whenever it would slow down and like speed up as you're trying to like move the stick.
Oh, so it made it made it frustrating to get a correct position or the position you wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, but
a little bit touchy.
What are you gonna do?
Right.
It's pool.
Yeah.
Pool on the PS2. I like to think that there's someone out there who on launch bought the PS2 and just cue ball billiards.
They're like, oh yeah, I got this brand new console. It's gonna be my pool simulator.
My new pool machine.
Right.
Like they're the type of person who was playing chess on PS1.
Right.
Like,
and that's all they used it for. There's probably like some like 50 or 60-year-old grandpa out there that's like, heck yeah.
Yeah,
give me that.
Grandpa.
Yeah.
The music was super repetitive, which was a problem with many of these games too. It was just like a really simple drum and bass loop, which was not the most fun.
All right. Let's...
Oh, sorry. I want to really quick, before we move on, we probably should move on from these games faster. Because we got 28 to go through. Originally going to be called Cool Pool Billiards Master, and I just think that's a much better name.
That is okay. Yeah. Let's all right, let's give it up for pool. Or for,
give it up for pool, everybody.
Cue ball, whatever.
Cue ball billiards master.
Anyway.
Okay. Unreal Tournament. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Let me scroll down to see if all right. Yeah, I do have notes for this one. Okay. So this was developed by, this is such a good name, Epic Games and Digital Extremes.
Do you know who Epic Games is, right?
I should, that name, it's so familiar. What did they do? I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
They make Fortnite.
Fortnite?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well. I thought you were being facetious. At first.
No, I actually wasn't. I was like, this is a name I should definitely know, and I don't. Probably because I don't play Fortnite, so because I have self-respect. No, I'm kidding.
Because I am 23. How old are you? 24.
24. Yeah. Anyway, so it doesn't. We don't have a publisher in the notes. I'm not sure if that just wasn't something.
I think it's also
find.
Published by Epic. Is my guess.
Okay. And on Metacritic, got a 77. On the PC, it got a 92, and on the Dreamcast, it got a 90. And it's also the sequel to Unreal. I don't know what Unreal was. But you can kind of guess from the name, Unreal Tournament, that
before they had a tournament, they were just sitting.
Right. Yeah.
It was just a bunch of they weren't fighting.
Right. Right. And if you want to go on with the rest of these notes,
Oh, yeah.
Since you took them, I did not take these.
So, this version of the game is reviewed pretty consistently lower than the other two. It's a pretty, like, popular PC game, and it was also apparently well reviewed on the Dreamcast, which is surprising to me because I believe that system only had one analog stick, but let me check. Okay, yeah, I don't know how this was reviewed better on here. I'm looking at a controller with one analog stick and a D-pad both right next to each other, so...
Oh, no.
I don't know what you're doing with that.
Gotta get your thumbs all crammed up together.
I don't know how you're controlling this game. But yeah, interestingly, a lot of people were criticizing the game for the control scheme requiring you to use both sticks at the same time.
I thought that was so hilarious. I laughed out loud when I saw that. I was like...
So this quote from, what is this? Electronic Playground in 2005. Epic has Epic has implemented a dual analog layout. One stick controls movement, the other stick controls aim, which sounds good in theory, but is horrid in practice. And I was I was pulling my hair out reading that because there's so many games with just like horrific ass backwards control schemes in this launch lineup, where you're using like this game in particular, the default control scheme has you use, and if you're at home, just, stick out your hand like you're holding the PS2 controller. Okay. With your left thumb controls looking up and looking down and moving left and right, or maybe it's the opposite of that, but it's like control and like movement and aiming is for some reason split between the two analog sticks. But it's breaking my brain trying to describe it because it doesn't make any sense.
So like one stick lets you look up and down, the other stick lets you look left and right. The original stick lets you move side to side. The other stick lets you move forwards and backwards.
It blows my mind.
It's hell.
Because you have to like, to come up with this idea, you have to mentally like pass the correct solution. Like you have to go past like splitting aim and move to separate I don't understand. Like I assume you had to arrive to that conclusion. You're like, aim and move, separate sticks. And then you're like, this just doesn't work. What if we just make it twice as complicated? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and if I'm sure that like, if, depending on hardware limitations, or like if you were used to maybe the Dreamcast controller, then yeah, maybe having two analog sticks for the first time would be so overwhelming that they were just like, we'll stick with the standard. But the standard sucked, okay? It's time to move on.
It really did. I mean, I kind of get the frustration around like early 3D first person games comes from, because I mean, if you put a controller in the hands of someone who's never played video games before and tell them to control like a 3D movement, like we take it for granted that there's just like a universal control scheme for all games, and we just pick up a 3D game and know how to like move and look and stuff. So this is definitely still a learning period for people making and playing games. I believe this is I might be stupid not thinking of something. This is the first console with two analog sticks, aside from the PS1, which had a controller that did have two analog sticks.
Right, and then it had one that just had the arrow buttons, right? Like originally when it first came out, it was just the arrow buttons. And
most games still didn't take advantage of the dual analog sticks. They were using movement with the D-pad and stuff. Because, I mean, it's hard as a developer. You got to like consider are you going to like develop the game with this optional controller in mind that only some people are going to have, or develop it with like just the controller that everyone has in mind?
Unless you're making Skyward Sword and make everybody go out and buy a Wii Motion Plus.
Yeah. So there is an option to like control the game with a more conventional left stick moves, right stick aims, which is good, and it made the game like playable. The frame rate wasn't too great, and I don't know if that's the method I was playing the game through or the game itself, but it kind of made it difficult. I could see this game being a lot of fun for like 4-player split screen or something. This seems like the mindless sort of entertainment that 5-year-old me would have enjoyed. Oh, there was no network capability, I don't think. So you were like limited to fighting bots and like split screen stuff, which is, I mean, it's foreign to us, obviously, but
right. And the bots weren't bad. per se.
I don't know if that's bad. Yeah.
Yeah. At least when I played it.
Oh, it's interesting that like I think I didn't look super far into this, but like the game was using terms like frag for kills and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. I think this is actually like the origin of like some of these terms, which is, I don't know, sometimes still used today, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a thing in Unreal too, maybe. I don't know.
I think that's all I got for this. In
your notes, you had also mentioned that like the character portraits looked like, I don't know, would you say like dollar store versions of Siege characters, Rainbow Six Siege?
They just didn't look like they belonged there. No. They were just like, yeah.
There were definitely some...
It looked like a fan-made game almost.
Yeah.
Like
there were some definite aesthetic choices that were a little bit questionable. I played Tasha, who had like this funky looking, I don't know if it was supposed to be a ski mask or like a metallic faceplate, but she also had like a ponytail. I don't know. She was wild looking. So I picked her, of course, because she was one of the stranger looking ones. The general, I found when I was, trying to like move around and shoot after I had switched over to like what an acceptable control scheme for like a modern gamer, to where it was like handling like a normal FPS. I felt like the general feel of moving around kind of sucked. So like,
I still think it was one of the best of.
Oh, definitely.
Like it these, was. But yeah, yes, I agree.
So like if you've ever played like Doom, and you know how archaic Doom is, but even though it's so old, like when you like moving around still feels so fluid, and like it still feels pretty good to play. This felt way more clunky than Doom. Which I thought was kind of interesting.
For me, I felt like I could envision what someone who was good at the game, like moving around, would have looked like, but it was just hard to like adapt to how they had everything set up. Yeah.
Yeah. Another like thing that I hate was like the map that I tried to play on. It was like a spaceship or something like that. There were like inclines, and when you would like walk down or up an incline, it would sort of like it would force your perspective to like tip up or down with that incline. And I hated that. I was like, let me like look at the floor or like look, I hated how it kept like adjusting my point of view for me as I was moving. It made it really hard to aim. That was
such a thing for some of these games. They just like really wanted to like mess with where you're looking.
Right.
Like, oh, obviously you want to revert back to the thing and you just end up fighting it.
Right.
Yeah.
So like you, and again, I don't know if this was related to the method in which I was playing this, but I noticed some framiness. Comparatively speaking, I thought that the like the textures were pretty interesting. The color palettes were more interesting than other things I'd seen. And the audio sounded like booty. Like the speaking, like when the tutorial voice or like the announcer voice or whatever sounded like garbled
like
trash.
You could not. I was playing the game like on speakers, and I could not hear the person talking like during that tutorial.
Oh, I could hear her fine. It was like
the most muffled, unintelligible thing that I
heard. It was not great. Otherwise, I thought like the sound design and the soundtrack were fine. I mean, it obviously didn't like blow my mind or anything, but it was all right. So
yeah,
out of everything else on the launch library, it was one of the better ones, I think.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. Especially from like a modern lens, it didn't review very well at the time. Well, I guess like other versions of it reviewed pretty well, but like this version didn't review super well.
Yeah.
From the modern lens, looking back at it, it's like, yeah, this is one of the only playable games to an extent.
Right. And I wonder like the control issues that we were talking about, like if you were to play it on PC, if it like might have felt better, or if they didn't do the weird like force your like reticle around when you're moving up and down inclines. I don't know how that was handled on PC, so might be better to play there. Who knows?
Shooters definitely. This is kind of where they, as far as I can tell, like things like SOCOM and I think Killzone started here as well. On this like generation of consoles. I think this is where FPS has become more normalized, but I think that they probably get their like mass mainstream appeal starting with PS3, Xbox 360.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, one of the only other things that I thought was like weird or stuck out to me for like something of like, this is very of its time, is like how whenever you kill someone, you just like really like rub it in their face in a really like immature way, like, or your character does. They're like, yeah, you suck, nerd, or something.
Right.
I really like that.
Maybe that's where the toxic gamer crap started, because the games told us that it was okay. It's okay to diss your opponent and call them trash. Anyway.
Can you imagine it? I mean, I don't think that doesn't happen still. I mean, we have like emotes and stuff. You can, like,
you could still
literally dab on someone.
Yeah, or if you're like in a single player game, I guess you can like, in some games you can like teabag if you really feel like that's necessary. Yeah. But yeah, interesting artifact of the time. Okay. All right. Do we want to move on?
We should.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So the next game on the list is Orphan. I don't know how to say this name. Scion? I forgot to mention. I don't know how to say. Is it Scoin? It's
Scion of Sorcery. Scoin.
Scion of Sorcery. Is that really how you spell Scion?
Yeah.
I hate that.
Do you know what Scion means? Or
no.
Okay, a Scion. I think it's sort of like equivalent to, I don't know. I don't want to say prodigy because that might have a different connotation, but I think Scion means like you're really good at it.
Oh, Toyota Scion. Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to Google it really fast just to make sure I'm not talking out of my butt.
There's a company. There's an automotive company called Scion.
Oh, never mind. I was totally wrong. It's a descendant of a notable family. So, I mean, I guess it could be taken to mean like it's in your blood, like a Scion of Sorcery, like being a sorcerer is like in his blood or whatever.
I saw that word and I just kind of thought like scourge.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's not what that means.
No, yeah. But okay, so this is an adaptation of a manga, right? Based off of the same source material. Based off the same source material. It is the source material.
Right.
Not reviewed super favorably at the time. 54 on Metacritic. Published by Shade Inc. Or developed by Shade Inc. and published by Katakawa.
That's a fun name.
Man, I picked all these words I don't know how to say. I'm sorry. I think localized by Activision. Localized and translated for an American audience. So, and I did not play this.
Did you say what the name of the manga was, the source material? Because I think it's great.
No, I just didn't even attempt.
Okay, it's Sorceress Stabber Orphan, which I think is amazing.
That's a strange collection of words. Really.
The stabber part, I think, is the weirdest. Like, why? But anyway.
Yeah, Sorceress Orphan would have been better.
Right. The stabber is just a little bit extra, but whatever.
So tell me about this Orphan.
Okay. So this, for some reason, I picked this game out of the launch lineup to really just sort of like grasp and like latch onto and be like, oh, I'm so excited to play this one. I don't know why I decided that. Probably because I read like a scathing review of it. And I was like, I bet it's not that bad. Like, I bet I could enjoy it. When I did play this, it was most definitely because of like the method I was using to play it. I experienced minor issues with the audio during cutscenes. So sometimes like some snippets of the character dialogue was just like missing, or like it would kind of like stutter and like repeat itself. Again, I don't think that's not the game's fault. But it made it a little bit harder to understand like the story and get what was going on. Mm-hmm. The game opens up with like a hand animated, like, I don't know, it looks like a scene from really? the anime. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting to see. And I mean, it was like, your typical like 90s anime art style. So like everyone had like really pointy hair, and there were a bunch
of... That 90s anime really just like hits the aesthetic.
Right. Yeah. It? Yeah. It definitely is a specific like look. So the interesting I found about this game when I was doing like some preemptive research was that it was developed with two different engines. So there's an engine that's used for overworld exploration, and there's a different engine that's used for combat. And it kind of makes sense when you actually see the gameplay, like how, like, you're like, oh, I see, like there's quite a difference between exploration versus combat. So like exploration, it's kind of like, I don't know, like your typical RPG, like you're just some dude walking around opening treasure chests and just basically trying to find your way to the next story cutscene, kind of. But I felt and I don't know if it was just because, you know, it was like towards the beginning of the game. That's where they tend to stuff the most effort into like letting you get to know the characters and everything. But I was being interrupted constantly by your like two companion characters. There was, I don't know if they were like related, but there was a young boy and like a teenage girl. And they were just yelling at each other like all the time. Like I walk into a new room and they start like crying and whining and pointing fingers at each other. And I'm like, why are we doing this? And then like the protagonist is like, you guys shut up. We're supposed to be doing things or whatever. And it's like, all right, it's kind of a strain on your patience after a while. Also the combat was, in my notes, I say it was frickin' fricked.
Oh, dang it. Whenever I like watched a little bit of this, I thought the combat looked like it could have been really fun.
Oh, see, I could not make sense of it at all. So the first combat you get into, the game opens up and you're on like this like ship in the middle of a storm. And I think like there's like a sea monster or something nearby. So the sea monster like is like in part of the boat. And so your first like combat segment is fighting this, I don't even know how to describe what it looks like, a tentacle monster thing. So you're not given any direction at all. You're just, you know, you encounter the fight and then bam, you're in the fight. There's no button prompts, no voice telling you what to do. It's just, you know, you're there and figure it out. And it's not like I didn't have, you know, like an original manual or anything next to me to like know what to do. And I didn't have a guide pulled up. So there's like, from what I could tell, there was like no UI. You had like a health bar at the top of the screen. There was like your health bar, which was, I don't remember if they even differentiated the colors, but there was your health bar that would flicker on screen for a second if you got hit, and the enemy health bar that would flicker on screen for a second if they took damage. And it was just so hard to tell what to do or like what buttons to press.
Yeah.
I was just mashing buttons, and like I think your prompt to like hit something and to like do damage and like perform well is to time it with this like kind of like starburst sort of shimmering effect that shows up on screen. And I could not, one of those. Yeah, I couldn't quite, like kind of like a quick time event, but I just couldn't wrap my head around it and get it figured out. And because of that, I quickly got bored. And so that was sort of my experience. So like, basically the worst part is just like the lack of like, oh my god, what am I doing? Tell me what to do. There's like no direction for combat at all.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I saw that you put that this voice actor was the same voice actor as another one of your favorite video game characters.
Yes.
What was that?
So Orphan, and one of my favorite characters is Axel from the Kingdom Hearts franchise.
I figured it'd be something.
Yeah. Something like anime adjacent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they share a voice actor. I can say that I like his performance as Axel better than his performance as Orphan, but you know, that's because he probably had more experience under his belt by the time he got to be Axel.
Mm-hmm. But did you just like hear that and know it? Or
yeah, I recognized him instantly. I was like, oh my gosh, It's Axel. I love Axel. But yeah, so that was it. I was hoping I was gonna like it more than I did, and it was not a super great experience.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't get Orphan to work for me, so I don't have anything to say about it really.
You're not missing much.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true for most of these games.
Right.
Okay, Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2, developed by Midway San Diego, published by Midway, got a 75 on Metacritic, and features such iconic boxing stars as Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jackson.
Oh. Well, now I'm upset that I didn't play this one.
You didn't play this one?
No.
Okay. It felt fever dream-esque. The intro has a mix of like live action and 3D animation, which gave off major Space Jam vibes. And maybe that's because Shaquille O'Neal was in the game. Wait. Shaquille O'Neal.
No.
That was Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was like, what are you saying?
I have not seen Space Jam.
Okay.
Let the record show.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't play it too long. The first person I fought was Shaquille O'Neal.
Did he beat you?
Just like, yeah, he beat me.
Okay.
I was like, what is going on? Why am I fighting Shaquille O'Neal? Apparently the previous game, I assume Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, or maybe Ready 1 Rumble Boxing Round 1 was the name. But it featured Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Oh my
God. Not named, just the likeness.
Was it just
First Lady and President?
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the game.
That's amazing.
It was extremely grunty. It's one of those where it's just like constant, like every button you do is letting out a major grunt. Everyone's grunting.
No, that's constantly. How you feel immersed.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I got. That's all I got for Ready to Rumble Boxing.
All right. I'm sad I missed it. I feel like I would have enjoyed it.
I mean, it's essentially just like a normal 2D fighter, but in a boxing ring. So, yep, that's it. Time Splitters is our next game. This is actually one of the, I think this is, for me, this is a spoiler for later on when we rank these. This is the only game that I thought barely reached to like almost not mediocre from the launch lineup.
That's rough.
Developed by Free Radical Design, who is mainly comprised of ex-Rare members who worked on Perfect Dark and GoldenEye. And playing that, you definitely see the inspiration. It definitely feels like those early shooters. Published by Eidos? God. I only write these.
Published by idiots. So I think it's
idiots.
Eidos or Eidos?
Idiots. It's Eidos, right?
I don't know.
Eidos. 81 on Metacritic. So yeah.
Okay.
What did oh, you didn't play this one?
No, I couldn't.
Oh yeah, that's my fault. I forgot. Dang it, I forgot.
That's all right.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have too much to say on this. I could definitely have seen me as a child really enjoying this. So the kind of like the different avenues you have for experiencing the game are just like deathmatch and like some very simple story campaign missions. The campaign is essentially like going around to different parts and times in the world, and you go and like retrieve an artifact and bring that artifact back to the start, and you just fight enemies along the way. You could do that in co-op or single player, and it controlled correctly by default, which I appreciated. Like it wasn't some weird use L2 to move forward or something. So that aspect, very nice. I enjoyed this a decent amount. It's not my, I didn't spend more than like 30 minutes with it, but like I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Right. Comparatively speaking.
Yeah. Comparatively speaking, it's very simple, but it like the foundation of the game, controlling and shooting, it's fine. What a ringing endorsement.
Right.
Yeah. Did you notice anything from watching?
So from the gameplay, I mean, like, I remember not being like super impressed with the visuals, but that's like a common theme with most of these games. So like, I'm not gonna, dock points from it because of that.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if it was like, I think in the gameplay I watched, they were using like an AR or something. The shooting sound effect sounded like it would get grating on my nerves after a while. Okay. It sounded just a bit much and repetitive. I know that sounds weird, but that was one thing I definitely took note of. But that was it. I thought it looked like a standard FPS. Nothing wrong with it.
Well, that's all I got for Time Splitters. Let's move on to Silent Scope, which is a port of an arcade series, I guess. I think this specific game was actually an arcade game at some point.
Okay.
Developed by Konami, published by Konami. 63 on Metacritic.
Oof.
Yeah. It was like decent. From my experience with it, I don't have too much to say, so I'll just jump in. I'm like, and you don't have anything to say?
Nope.
It was fine. It was kind of fun. I wonder if there was like light gun support for this, because that would be very interesting. Like have an actual gun and stuff.
Yeah.
I could see that being fun. I found a review from Major Nelson, who is the Xbox guy, which I thought was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like the most interesting thing. I literally couldn't find the review. It just was like someone referencing the review and the page didn't exist.
So I do have a question about the gameplay, because I also forgot to like look this up and like watch any of it. So when you say it was like pulled from an arcade, was it like this sort of arcade game where you're just sort of like on rails and like...
Yeah, it's an on rails shooter.
Okay. Gross. That's my
you're
opinion.
playing as like a sniper, like moving. So the premise is just like you're trying to rescue the president and the president's daughter.
Is
or
it?
Something.
But it's just Bill Clinton's likeness, right? Like not.
It's Bill Clinton's likeness from Ready One Rumble Boxing.
Right.
Yeah, and it is definitely harder than it should be because of just being a port of an arcade game where it's trying to like get a bunch of quarters out of you or whatever.
Oh no.
But
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's, and it's got like continues and stuff like that. So definitely not like a amazing adaptation, but I'm sure for some people this was fun.
Right.
Hey, it's an arcade game in my house. I feel like this was the generation where we started to actually see stuff like that. So.
And I don't have to pay quarters, or there's like some idiot trying to shove a quarter into the PS2 and breaking it.
That's why there's so many freaking broken PS2s on eBay. People were animals. All right. So that's all we got for Silent Scope. Moving on to X Squad, developed and published by EA, 64 on Metacritic. Morgan, what did you think of X Squad?
All right. So, what a cast of characters.
Honestly, yeah.
I think there's like, it's like a team of 4, right? There's like
I think so.
Okay.
There's like a main.
And they are all very distinct. You of course have like the 3 men that are varying body types, and then you have the girl whose personality is probably just being a girl. So that's her like character archetype. So I respected the attempt to be cinematic. I felt like the game took itself very seriously. With like the
maybe
whole
like fault, but yeah,
like we're super cool spies and we're gonna go do super cool things, and you're like, yeah, sure. So this one, unlike the other games I had experiences with, the tutorial was good at actually teaching you basic gameplay. So like you're in like this I don't know if it's like the bad guy's like secret base or something. You're like in these tunnels. And so, for the tutorial, you would like move from room to room, and each room would introduce like a new mechanic. Like, this is how you interact with elevators and buttons, and this is how, you crouch, and this is how you look around corners. I appreciated that. I know that sounds like the bar is really low. That's because it is. I thought the controls and handling weren't too bad. As far as like shooting, there was sort of like it's a third person shooter. So, like, as you're, like, moving around, your, like, aiming reticle, will actually, like, snap to targets, but it's, like, in a good way. Like, not in the way that
it is more helpful.
Yeah, yeah. So it makes it feel, like, actually, like, more fun to play. And I also thought it was interesting that, they had a lean mechanic where you could, like, hold a certain button when you're standing, like, next to a wall and, like, actually, like, lean around and be, like, kind of sneaky about it.
I don't remember what the button combo was, but I remember it feeling awkward to me.
It was awkward, yes. I think it was oh shoot. I think, would it be like L1? Like you had to hit like L1 to stand in place and then hit another thing to like lean. It was awkward, but I respect the attempt. And another thing that I liked about it was there was also an attempt to have stealth mechanics. Now, I use that term a little bit generously here. Basically, like, if you, like, open fire on a man in this hallway, there's other men that are gonna hear that and run out. And, you could, if you were, like, quiet, and didn't, like, fire your gun all the time and would, like, crouch and, like, sneak up on people, you would get the jump on them, that sort of thing. And there were also follower mechanics. So, like, at one point you get, like, one of your other squad mates that's, like, walking around with you, and you can actually issue commands to them, like, hey, try and be stealthy, or like let's go in loud, or that sort of thing. And I don't remember if you could actually like tell them to go to a specific like point in the area, but like I said, an attempt at follower commands, an attempt at stealth, and I respected that about it. So that's my feedback.
My only note was that one of the characters was named Judd.
Yes.
I don't know. This game felt like it gave me vibes of like a game that you would see being played in a movie or TV show. Like it feels like something that would just be like made up for a movie, like X Squad.
Right. Very generic, stereotypical.
It really did feel that way. And
Yeah.
it's probably because, I don't know, it is. There's only one of these that never got a sequel, unfortunately.
Oh.
We were really dying for another X Squad, X Squad 2. Maybe it'd just be like Y Squad.
Or, yeah. And then Z Squad after that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then we go back to A. I thought the cutscenes were like funny. It did take itself very seriously in it's like a so bad it's good kind of way.
Yes.
The lock-on aiming was nice, like you mentioned. I thought the controls were a little stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And not in a way that I can really expound upon because I played this a while ago and I don't remember. Oh yeah, I didn't like the reticle snapping back which it didn't really matter because it was so like everything was lock-on aiming, but like I felt like I was fighting it a little bit. That's all I got.
Yeah. I don't remember fighting the reticle too much, but
how far did you make it in this game? I only played for I think 2 missions.
Oh, well, I played far less than you. I got, there was like a point in the tutorial where it's like, activate, this elevator's locked. You have to go unlock it. And I was like, huh? How do I do that? And I think I went up to a second. Yeah. I couldn't quite figure, it wasn't super clear, which button was the correct thing to unlock the elevator. So I was just kind of bopping around.
Roll was the same button as activate, so I kept rolling into crap.
Yes, I kept doing that too, just rolling into walls. I remember there was a second floor, a crosswalk above a room that you had been in previously, and I kept rolling off the crosswalk and having to circle back around. But that was kind of my fault. I was just being a goober.
That elevator point was really, I was maybe 2 seconds away from putting the game down at that point.
You're testing me too much.
Yeah, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So but yeah, that's all I got for X Squad. Okay, moving on to Madden NFL 2001. Developed by EA, published by EA.
Mm-hmm.
Metacritic of 91 was one of the more well-received games of the launch. Yeah, and it seemed to be, out of this launch lineup, I think Madden was probably the game that most people got with their PS2 if they got it at launch.
Yes.
So, yeah. It also launched on previous generations. So I didn't know cross-platform stuff was really a thing at the time. So, but yeah, Morgan, what did you think of this game?
On principle, I just kind of refused to play it. So
I couldn't play it.
All right. That's good to know. I mean, everybody should know what Madden is, right? It's,
Yeah, if you care about Madden, you know what Madden is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I put a distinction between me and you. I put couldn't play for me and I put wouldn't play for you.
Yes.
So very important.
Right.
All right.
You would have. I would have. I wouldn't.
I would have. It just wouldn't work with my setup. So yeah. That's all we got for Madden NFL 2001. Let's move on to Gun Griffin Blaze Bacall. I feel like there should be an eagle scream after saying something like that.
An explosion followed by an eagle screech. Yes.
Yeah. This was developed by Game Arts as a Metacritic of...
Should I? Hold on. 73.
73. I was trying to find it. Yeah. This it's one of these mech shooter games, which is apparently a fairly prominent genre on early PS2 games, which I'm not aware of. I don't think that we currently have too many mech shooters in modern day gaming.
No.
This is the third game in the franchise. The first two were for Sega Saturn. It takes place in 2016, which I thought was funny. Yeah, it's fun to be past what was previously the future in media and stuff.
Right.
But yeah. Morgan, what did you think of Gun Griffin?
So, the intro music sure was something because I made a comment about where I was like, oh my gosh, this is Darude Sandstorm. There was like a certain like vibe about it where I was like, oh, is that where this is going? And then it definitely changed directions because I said, oh, never mind, this is incredibly Japanese. And by that, I was like, oh yeah, this reminds me of like, you know, Neon Genesis, Evangelion, like anything like Gundam or mech related, obviously. I did say that you have to respect the UI design. They didn't have to go as hard with it as they did, but like all of the information on screen makes you like, it is to a certain extent immersive. Like it feels like a UI that would be present if you were like actually piloting a mech suit. And that's kind of cool. I mean, that's probably part of like the whole experience or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the movement felt decent, except the controls were backwards. I don't remember what was backwards about it. I think
it was the sticks were backwards.
Okay. Yep, that was definitely it because as I was playing, like you play for a little bit, you kind of get used to it. And then I would start to think about it too hard again and then get all messed up and like spin out and like get lost and have to like readjust myself. And yeah, it was kind of hard for me to handle.
I just play with the controller upside down.
Oh, that's smart.
So that is, I think that's what Southpaw control schemes usually are, is like the flipped sticks for movement and aim.
Okay.
And I'm one of the freaks that plays with an inverted y-axis, and I'm reminded that it's this generation's fault. Like all these games have these just weird ass control schemes, and that's why we have all these like holdovers of like Southpaw and like flip sticks and bumper jumper, although that's a different thing.
Right.
But like flipping the y-axis and stuff, it's all from this generation.
Another thing I had issues with was knowing what to do and knowing what to target. Yeah. The render distance was not super great, and
it's true.
It was hard to tell where my targets were and what I needed to destroy in order for the mission to end. I failed the first mission, and then I just stopped playing because I was like, I didn't know what I was missing. I don't
even think I failed it. I think I just
stopped.
I wasn't sure. I thought I was just treating it like a sandbox, basically, and I was just
going
walking around destroying stuff.
There was also I don't know if you would call it a mechanic, but an option to make your own custom pilot where you could make the name, your nationality, your gender, age, blood type, height, weight, your sight, whatever that, like, I guess how good you see things, and also your
sight.
Yeah, your IQ.
Maybe that's why you had such a low render distance.
No, I cranked my sight. I cranked so many of these stats as high up as they would go. Yeah, I had an IQ of 300.
An IQ of 300.
I wanted to get it to 420, but it wouldn't let me. And I thought that was interesting because I'm like, this doesn't affect the game like at all. Like, it's not displayed anywhere. It does nothing for the mechanics, as far as I'm aware. I was like, why did they add this? Like, why is it even here? Why'd they bother? So
yeah,
I don't know.
I see your little screenshot of what your character is. You're 200 years old.
Yes.
Almost 8 feet tall.
Yes. I cranked all the things up to the max. I was trying to get to 420s for all of them, but it wouldn't let me.
That's a damn shame.
Right.
It'd be great if you could like see your character and it was just like clipping through the mech. Just
I think I did have my weight at 69 kilograms. That was the one thing that I could get to, where I was like, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
What is 69 kg in LB? 150 pounds. So we're talking normal weight.
Well, for almost being 8 feet tall, though, I think that's severely underweight, probably.
Probably under, yeah.
Skin and bones, piloting a mech suit, and I have an IQ of 300, so I'm just like a super genius. Also, an Australian
most of
male.
That weight's probably your brain.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it is.
Got anything else for Gun Griffin Blaze before we move on?
No.
Moving on to ESPN Winter X Games Snowboarding. This was developed by Konami, published by Konami, has a 73 on Metacritic, and is probably the game I could find the least amount of information for. So
interesting.
Did you get a chance to see any of this?
I didn't play it.
Okay. You're not missing much.
Okay, I don't think so.
It's got a fun intro, like many of these, where it's just early 2000s music, which I'm sure me and you can enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
Due to age. So it's just snowboarding, from what I can tell. hence the name. It is based off of, I believe, real snowboarders, which is cool. It had quite a few, and I had no idea what I was doing.
All right.
That's all I got.
Is there a reason you didn't know what you were doing?
I don't know. I was trying to apply like SSX logic to this because I had been playing a lot of SSX Tricky on the GameCube.
Okay.
Before jumping into this, and this is less bombastic. Just kind of racing. There was one event where it was like do the like half pipe thing, and you're just like doing all these tricks trying to rack it up, and I just like kept falling over.
Oh no.
Just like couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It had like 0 points. It was a strange mode too, because you had to like sit there and watch all the computers. I'm like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like tricks in racing. I don't know if there's much else. Didn't stick around to find out.
No.
All the snowboarders kind of look the same, even though they were like based off people, which is...
Oh dear. Well, maybe all snowboarders in real life look the same. You don't know.
Yeah, they know. I mean, it was probably a technical limitation. I'll give it to them.
Yeah.
They only had so many polygons to work with.
They tried.
It was just, man with brown hair.
Right.
Man with slightly more brown hair. So, yep. That's that's all I got for ESPN Winter X Games Snowboarding. Moving on to another game with X in the title. Street Fighter EX3. Jeez. Developed by Akira? Is that how you say that? Eureka.
Erica?
I don't know. Published by Capcom, 64 on Metacritic. The final game in the EX series of Street Fighter. Morgan, do you have anything to add to this?
No. Not equipped to... I knew how unequipped I was to judge fighting games, so I kind of just didn't. I just didn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I played it. I'm like, yeah, it's a fighting game. Honestly, if you put like I think there's 3 fighting games other than like Ready to Rumble.
I put time into one of them, definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Right.
I'm not sure I could tell the difference between any of these. I could probably recognize Ryu and Chun-Li as being Street Fighter, but that's it.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. Those are
other than that,
like iconic, right?
Yeah, I played it. I'm like, I guess it's good. And then I looked online and it was like, oh, I guess it's bad. I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all I got for Street Fighter EX3. Moving on to Evergrace.
Oh boy.
Developed by From Software, published by From Software. Has a 59 on Metacritic, so quite the stinker of its time. Brought to North America by Angic?
Agetech.
Yes. Agetech.
Yeah. If you sound it out, split the word in half and sound it out. Sorry. I don't mean to roast you, but that's funny.
And this is the same publisher developer combo for Eternal Ring, which is another RPG on the launch lineup. This game was originally developed with the intent of releasing on the PS1 as well.
That makes sense.
It was quickly canceled.
Oh.
And I can't help but wonder if that influenced some design choices or maybe limited the game in some aspect. But yeah, that's all I got for the research section. What did you think of this game, Morgan?
Oh boy, do I have some thoughts. This is another one. When I was looking through the launch lineup, I was looking at, like developers and publishers and that sort of thing. I like Orphan, but for different reasons. I quickly latched on to this one because I saw that From Software name. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's the Dark Souls, the Bloodborne, the Elden Ring people. This is going to be hype. I bet this is going to be great.
It's going to be hype.
Right.
Let's go.
You're right. Within the first, 30 seconds, that was quickly squashed into the dust and pulverized. Okay. So I just want to say the first nanosecond, as soon as that soundtrack picks up, the game opens up, you're on the main menu, you hear the music. It's already a strain on your sanity.
It really is.
Yes.
It's
twangy. It
so
sounds
twangy.
like, I have in my notes, The music sounds like if you took a woman's voice and tried to edit it to sound like a swarm of locusts. It's so echoey and warbly and just, it's like, I'm not even gonna, I could impersonate it, but I'm not going to just because I respect myself too much. Anyway.
We respect the listeners too. You're welcome.
Right, yeah. I picked, I think you picked was his name Darius or something?
Call him Darren.
Darren? Okay. It started with a D. I picked Charlene because I was like, oh, a woman. Sure, I'll go with that. The voice acting, I don't know about your side of the story that you saw, but on my side, everybody sounded like speech to text bots. So like, you know, she would say something and there would be no inflection. Like, what do you mean? We are, oh no, everything is wrong. And it's just not, like, it was just not good.
Yeah.
I didn't have a guide pulled up. I was just sort of like going because I was excited to explore the world. So I started the game. I spent 20 minutes running around, trying to kick the first enemies you encounter. I didn't have any weapons, so I was just kicking like a mad woman. I died multiple times without ever getting to visit a save point, and so that meant I had to restart the entire game and try and skip through the opening cutscenes as fast as possible. It was miserable.
Yes.
I ran into a priest NPC. I thought it was interesting that she info dumped the same way a Dark Souls NPC does, where she just starts rambling about nonsense that like is important to the world, but you don't really know anything about the world, so you're just kind of like, oh yeah, okay. I eventually found another NPC near a sword. You know, you think it's an RPG, there's an old man with a sword, he's going to give you the sword. No, that did not happen. I still had no weapons. At that point, I had been playing the game for like 20 or 30 minutes. Which is, I don't know how I managed to stay sane for that long. But I was like, oh, this is just like a helpless woman simulator. Like I'm supposed to be incapable of fighting anything, I guess, because the game hadn't given me any weapons or anything.
Now, can I interject real quick?
Yes.
So I played the man, you played the woman. Was there like a different start to the game?
I assumed there would be. I don't actually know. So like my game started with, I'm like laying on a bed and there's like some woman taking care of you, and then you walk out the door and then the hut explodes and there's like an evil man there, and then I don't know. Yeah. I think it's two different stories.
I started in like a desert.
Oh, okay. Then I was in like a forest area.
I got a sword immediately.
Okay, that's nice. Okay. At some point, while exploring, I saw a sign pointing at a body of water. And somewhere in my little gamer brain, I was like, oh, I bet that's a trick. It's like there's an invisible bridge there. I don't know why I thought that. I was convinced. I hopped off the edge of the map and immediately drowned and died. And I still hadn't reached a save point, so I had to restart everything. I thought that
yeah,
was...
Yep.
Did you almost
had a similar experience?
Okay. I thought, because Dark Souls does that too, right? I shouldn't have been even comparing this to Dark Souls, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we really take for granted like autosaves and crap.
Right. Eventually, I got so fed up that I pulled up a guide. I was like, I have to be doing something wrong. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Apparently, in the starting room, the little like bed, there's a bow sitting on the bed.
Oh.
And it was like the same tan and white sort of color as the bed, so I didn't see it. So that whole time, I was kicking things and getting slaughtered. I was supposed to have a bow with me that I could just shoot from far away and like kill things in one hit. And it nearly broke me emotionally. Yeah. So I found a bow. I got a pot that I could put on my head like a helmet. I was like, okay, I've followed the guide. I got to the first dungeon, got killed by an octopus, and then I set the controller down, turned it off, and I don't want to go back to it.
I would like to take a look. I really am confused by like the, and maybe this was due to the console having a delayed release in North America. It's just very strange that there's two From Software RPGs releasing at the same time.
Right. I thought that was weird too.
You're like competing with yourself.
Right.
I played as the man, so I started in like a deserty area, and there was a sword that I started with, just like next to me, stuck in the ground. There was like a fairy lady that like woke me up, and it was just like some incredible translated stuff. It looked like visually looked better than I was expecting. I thought the world was pretty bland. The music was repetitive. It was. Definitely still trying to figure out the 3D controls. The weirdest thing with this game, control-wise, was using the analog buttons to like determine how powerful your attack was.
Yes.
Analog buttons as a concept are extremely questionable, flawed, or whatever. And this is like the only game that I know of that like uses them, and you could turn them off. So yeah, that's all I got for this. You got anything else to add?
No, except, well, one thing. So the analog button option did confuse me for a while, because I was like, this was before I had before I figured out I was supposed to have a bow to fight enemies. I was like, maybe my kicks are so weak because I don't have analog buttons to make my kicks stronger. No, I was just supposed to have a bow.
I wonder how that works. I guess there's no analog input. Maybe it's like a full send every time. Like maybe it's just like
I think it was, because there was like a little meter where it would show you how strong your button presses were or whatever, and it was like max every single time I pressed it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know like what the freaking point of.
I don't know.
Like, because you could turn it off is what I'm saying. Like
yeah, I think it's just spaghetti at the wall.
Like yeah, basically.
Seeing like, oh, what if we did this? Is this worthwhile? I don't know. Let's put it in.
Well, because like it's basically asking, do you want to smash your controller like an ape?
Right.
Or do you just want to press it like a normal person and have it do the maximum amount of damage?
Right. I would like to play like an ape, please.
Me like smash like ape.
Right.
Like, is there any, I wonder if there's like any point to like some level of finesse in the game? I don't know.
Who knows? And like from like fan feedback that I had seen about the game, it seemed like there were people that were like fond of the game.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them. Sorry.
This is such a great like start to the podcast. We're just like
just trashing everything.
Trashing everything.
Right.
Like taking 28 games and throwing them in the dumpster.
Yeah.
So moving on from Evergrace, next on the list is Eternal Ring. Again, developed by FromSoft, published by FromSoft. Same thing with Age Tech, as I am now informed it is pronounced. They did the like translation and localization, or published it in North America. 62 on Metacritic, so just slightly better.
Right.
What did you think of Eternal Ring?
So I played Eternal Ring right after I like the last game I played was Evergrace. So I was just going in back to back. So the first thing I noticed was the visuals are not great. You can tell that, I mean, it's sort of like the same across all these games. You can tell that they just really did not know what the PS2 hardware was capable of. Either that or, I mean, I'm sure it's like a mixture of like them not knowing like how to optimize use of the hardware, but also like the technology that they were probably developing these games with also was not as, you know, advanced.
It's also worth mentioning, just to add to that,
the
PS2 was actually fairly difficult to develop for, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, interesting.
People got pretty good with it because it was just the game. It was the system that people had. So
right.
People got familiar, but I remember hearing someone like doing like a breakdown of like the PS2 and everything, and they said that it was pretty difficult to develop for. So yeah, maybe that's part of it.
Okay, that's super interesting. So after playing Evergrace, I was so relieved to listen to the music of this game. In fact, I said that it slaps. I said it sounds like 1700s royal court drama, and I am here for it. Which it very much does. It's got like a I don't know, what's it called? Is it a pianoforte that I'm thinking of? Or I don't know. There's like a specific like piano or organ that sounds like a 1700s. You know what I mean. Anyway, so the controls, on the other hand, do not slap. I gave up on using analog sticks entirely. I just walked around using the arrow buttons because something about it was breaking my brain. I don't remember if they were flip-flopped again. I was baffled that looking up and down was L2 and R2.
Yeah, I didn't know you could. I was like, I guess you can't look up and down in this game.
No, you can't. I noted that if it was just controlled like a normal FPS, that it would have been so much better. I stand by that. And I don't know if there was a way to change the control scheme. I didn't really look into it or anything like that. The combat, funnily enough, reminded me of Oblivion in that, I don't know if you've ever played Oblivion all that much.
Not past the, I remember I've played Oblivion twice.
Okay.
I quit as soon as I got to the lockpicking section in the tutorial because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, the lockpicking in Oblivion is special. But in this game, the way I was like handling the combat was like much like Oblivion. You run forward and try to time it with your attack swing and then just quickly back away. So you're just doing like this awkward little dance of like swing and then run away and swing and then run away. So that, because like enemies have like a long wind up period before they'll like try and smack you or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was fun. It was not much strategy to it. Kind of mindless, you know. The first dungeon, because looking up and down is so difficult. Whenever, and you wouldn't know this since you didn't know that you could look up and down, but enemies would like drop something.
Yes.
So you would kill them, they would drop something, then you had to stop and like fiddle with L2 and R2 to like actually like look down and then tap X on it to pick it up.
Okay, so I saw them dropping things because I could, from a distance you see stuff on the ground.
Yeah.
I just had to like guess. I was just like walking over it, spamming X.
Yeah, no, if you actually like took the time to like position yourself and then look down at it, you could pick it up that way, which it was so slow and clunky to like such a slow and clunky way to look around. In the first dungeon, since you can't easily like look at your feet, it was hard to like know where your feet were on the ground. So I died to the instant death water in the first dungeon. I like accidentally walked off a bridge and died immediately. And I was like, okay, well, I kind of hate that.
How far did you make it? So you start on that boat, like the fisherman takes you to like some island.
Yes.
Like, this is the island of no return.
Right.
Or something.
Yeah, something stupid.
And there's just a freaking dragon in the background that no one notices.
Yes.
So you go through that cave, you go to the village area. Did you go past that?
No. I got to the village, and the way that they did this kind of like blows my mind. I don't know why they made this decision. I don't know if it was like a funky balancing issue that they were trying to like correct in this weird way. But so you go to the first town, you find this man, and you like give your like orders to him or something. And then he takes your sword away from you and was like, oh yeah, you don't need this. Go to the requisition guy in the warehouse and get yourself a new weapon. And I was like, okay. So you took away my sword, and it took me forever because none of the buildings are labeled. Nothing is like labeled. It took me forever to find the correct building. And then I had to pull up a guide to figure out that I had to go into my inventory, select the requisition order, and then use it on the NPC, like click like use when I was standing next to the NPC to use it on him for him to give me a knife that was crappier than the sword that they had just taken away from me. And I was like, bruh. And then I quit.
I'm so glad. I'm glad I gave up on that because I literally never would have figured that out. Like there was, aside from looking it up, there was no hope of me just naturally figuring out that I had to go into my menu to get it.
Yeah. No, I had to look it up because I was like, I know that this building is most likely the warehouse, but I would like talk to the NPC and he wouldn't do anything. And I'm like, okay, what am I like? And like when you're talking to NPCs, there was no like dialogue selection options or anything like you would find in a modern standard RPG. It was a bit obtuse is what I said in my notes. Mm-hmm. So
do you remember I can't remember exactly what he said, but you like come to that town and I guess you're like looking for the captain. And they're like, yeah, he sleeps. He just sleeps all the time or something.
And so for a long time, I thought I was supposed to, because he has a sword that's like plainly sitting next to him. And I was like, well, am I supposed to steal his sword then since you took mine away? Mm-hmm. But I couldn't get it. And I didn't know if I could attack NPCs and what would happen. I thought about it, but then I just didn't.
Oh, I tried. I don't think I could. Okay. I think I tried and I don't think it let me do it.
Okay. That's funny.
But yeah. Like, as soon as I'm about to be done with the game, I'm like, okay, let's go crazy.
Right. Let's try to break it or something stupid.
Let's start attacking the guards, yeah. I don't know if I have anything else to add based off what you said. I said, I called the main character, in reference to the main character, I put all these brand link looking ass.
Yeah.
Because he's like got a green tunic and like tan pants and a boots and stuff. I'm like, this is Link. I think he's got blonde hair too.
He does, yeah.
Yeah. The subtitles were very necessary for that fisherman at the beginning of the game because I had no idea. There was no hope of me trying to discover what he was doing. I forgot the fisherman got eaten by the dragon. That's incredible.
I don't think I even realized that happened. I think I was just like, I don't know if I was in La La Land when that cutscene was playing or what. I remember looking at the water texture, and it was just like the same 1 foot cube of water that was clearly just replicated, and I was like, huh, that looks like something.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, also, I thought it sucked from like a level design perspective. I thought it sucked. The only save point I could find was like I think it was like the first left turn in that first cave. And there was no save point like in the village itself. I was like, why is there not a save point here? You mean if I want to save the game, I have to walk all the way back through that starting cave and go save? I don't know.
I don't know if these are like early FromSoft games. I mean, they're early, but like if there's some of the first games that they made or what, but they are, they've had quite the glow up.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I have on my notes is complaining about the movement and stuff. I too felt like it had potential if the movement was just a little bit better. This could have been something I actually was able to tolerate, but yeah, that's all I got. You have any last words for Eternal Ring?
No.
Or should we move on?
The ring is not eternal.
Yes. I like that there was like literally something called the Eternal Ring.
Yeah.
I always love when that's
right.
Like, yeah.
Like when they say the title of the movie in the movie and you're like, whoa.
Yep. It's good stuff. Moving on to another From Software game. Armored Core 2, developed and published by From Software somehow. Somehow they put out 3 games for the launch lineup in North America. These must have been more spaced out for like the Japanese region, but
probably, yeah.
Yeah, brought to America by Age Tech. Actually, the 4th game in the Armored Core series, which this is like a Final Fantasy situation, Final Fantasy, a Kingdom Hearts situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of Armored Core 2?
So I noticed that our first bullet point for both of our notes. I like how we start with the same phrasing.
I basically just copied you because I wanted to.
I figured you did. So my first bullet point, I'm just going to read this. I said, okay, what is it with From Software games in this launch lineup that just have an info dump text scroll at the start? This was the case. Evergrace tried to give you like this text scroll thing, or no, I think it was narrated actually, where it's like info dumping about these like countries that are at war and they all have like really dumb names, and it's like, I'm not going to remember this because how can I? Eternal Ring did something similar. And then Armored Core is like, like, oh, the year is this year in the future and humans have to run around in these mech suits to survive, blah, 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 or like something like that. And I'm like, why do you do this? Why do you do this? And Dark Souls kind of does the same thing, except now they have, a pretty cinematic happening in the background.
Oh, okay.
With these games, it was just black screen, white text, info dump, go. And it's like, why are we doing this?
Aren't I have not played many Dark Souls games, but aren't they pretty obtuse? Like as far as story and stuff? Like kind of just get dumped in a world and you're just going?
Yeah, a lot of it is like either environmental or you get super vague like context clues from NPCs and from like the descriptions of like weapons and items you find. So, I mean, from like in terms of like environmental storytelling, it's cool, but to find and to understand what's actually going on, it takes a little bit of effort. Like you have to go out of your way to find it, sort of a thing.
Right.
So I thought the aesthetics were fine. I said the intro video looks pretty detailed. I think like from a visual standpoint, there was like clearly a lot of effort put into it. That was cool. But the control scheme had similar issues to everything else on this list, including something it shared with Eternal Ring was that you had to look up and down with L2 and R2. It's
just so unintuitive.
It's very unintuitive. So I wasn't too enamored with it. What you gonna do?
Yeah, similar to the other From Software games, I just could not get behind the control scheme. I got destroyed. I thought it was funny that it's like that like tutorial guy is like, and if you fail, you die, and then you're just going. And right. I like had no idea how to control anything. There's no like tutorial like easing you into it, and I was just getting shot some robot, and I couldn't figure out how to move and aim, and I was just like, what's going on?
Right. I think I don't remember the exact like button combination you had to press, but there was like a funky thing where it's like, okay, like you're locked onto the enemy and now you have to like do this dumb thing that strafe side to side, and that's how you like dodge the majority of like the enemy bullets or whatever. And I also kept like getting like stuck or lost or like having a hard time controlling myself, but I did beat the first mission, but it wasn't fun. So
yeah, no, I put in my notes that I got my ass whooped and quit. So,
right.
You got anything else to add to Armored Core before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, moving on from Armored Core 2 to Smuggler's Run, developed by Angel. Dang it. Okay, Angel Studios. Published by Rockstar Games. Has a 79 on Metacritic. They did go on to make a sequel to this game, Smuggler's Run 2. There was a GBA game as well, I believe. And there was a GTA Online DLC named after it as well.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And that is the legacy of Smuggler's Run.
Oh, wow.
Yep. This is one of the only games I remember actually playing in the PS2 era. I remember playing it. I don't remember playing it. Like, I like jumping back into it now. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't remember any of this. But yeah, you made a note of the girlfriend dialogue thing.
Yes.
I found out you can actually turn her off.
Okay, good. Because I was getting like uncomfortable.
Oh, yes.
So
she was, yeah.
So for everybody at home, I suppose. So as you're playing the game, there's like, I don't know if you want to call her like a narrator, a tutorial voice. There's this lady, and she is like, she compliments to an extreme degree, it feels like, everything you do. Like, you go pick up something, and she's like, oh, you did that so good, baby. And I'm like, why are you, please stop talking to me like this. I was like, don't call me baby. Why does it sound like the microphone is in your mouth? I need you to leave me alone so I can be a smuggler.
She was getting turned on by your illegal activities.
Yes, everything she said sounded like, it was like kind of in a bedroom tone, or it sounded like it could have been an innuendo. I was like, please just shut up. So, from a gameplay perspective, I didn't have any problems with like driving around. Like, it was, you're in a car, yay, go fast, do whatever. I feel like though, like, just the fact that it is exclusively driving between checkpoints, basically, at least for the chunk that I played, it feels like they took the concept of being a smuggler and they boiled it down to something that is a bit too like bland, or like there's just not a lot going on.
I mean, it literally is like the gameplay does not really reflect what you are doing. You are just the game is driving point to point.
Exactly.
And you could put any setting behind that.
Right. Exactly. And I think there's like a timer, like you have to try and get to the checkpoints in a certain amount of time or whatever. And I think you get paid. Don't you get paid depending on like
I think based off how much damage you take while you're moving and stuff. And
I thought I did get to the point in the game where it starts to like introduce more challenges. So like where they have like the cop cars that like set up roadblocks and like chase you. I said the cops chasing you get annoying because the sirens are going off constantly.
Yeah.
And they aren't very competent. The last like mission I played, the game started like putting like civilians or whatever in my path. I got to the last checkpoint and a cop car sped past me and plowed into a crowd of people and sent them flying. And I laughed out loud because I was like, you just destroyed like 12 people.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
It was funny that like the majority of like, I guess I only played like the first 20-ish minutes.
Yeah.
It's all taking place in that one setting around that one tiny town. It's like this poor town.
There's not a lot going on. No.
these poor rectangle houses. These people have to live through so much. Just constant illegal activities happening in their area.
Right.
There's not, I mean, I found it mildly enjoyable, even if it was like just point-to-point racing.
Oh, yeah, there wasn't anything that was like frustrating about it, really. Like, it wasn't like this control scheme sucks or, it was fine for what it is,
I felt like it just worked, it was just a racing game that was just there.
Right.
But yeah.
I think I also made a note. So there's a game farther down the list. I think it's Midnight Club Street Racing. I think that was also made by Rockstar, but we'll get to that in a bit. But it feels like so similar, like Smuggler's Run and Midnight Racing or Midnight Club Street Racing, whatever, feels so similar where it's like, okay, it might have been worth more of your time to just kind of slap them together and like make the smuggling maybe like a mini game part of the other. I don't know. That's just an idea, but
yeah, that's true. Same developer and publisher. So
yeah. All
right. Anything? I don't have anything to add to Smuggler's Run. Do you?
Nope.
Moving on from Smuggler's Run to NHL. Oh yeah, NHL 2001. Developed by EA Canada, published by EA Sports. 85 on Metacritic. Morgan, what did you think of this game?
Oh my gosh, I'm actually excited. I couldn't believe that I would be so excited to talk about a sports game, but
me too.
The experience we had was so funny, and anyway. Okay, so the intro, a lot of nostalgia there. You know, seeing like crappily modeled PS2 people. The music, something about the opening song and the musicians' like vocals, lead singer vocals, reminded me of Nickelback.
Yeah.
My fiance insisted it sounded nothing like Nickelback, but I was like, no, I'm telling you, I hear Nickelback in there.
Yeah. I mean, I put that I like the music, and then I saw your notes that you're like, Lamau sounds like Nickelback.
Might have made you question some things. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. All right. So our notes are very similar for this game. So
pretty much.
I don't want to steal. I mean, if you want to talk about your gameplay experience.
Okay. So I love that the national anthem plays at the start of each match. That's a nice little touch. I wish it was the full thing.
Yeah.
Or was it? I can't remember. So playing the game, within about 2 minutes, 2 minutes of playing the game, I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. And I was like, am I just controlling like one of these guys? And if I don't have the puck, I just don't do anything. I got to the point where I just set the controller down and it was like, yeah, it's playing itself. And I'm just watching a hockey game. And that's about when I quit. And then I saw that you ran into the same issue.
Right. So I was playing the game. My fiance was watching me play over my shoulder, and we were both like, man, this is just like watching a hockey game. He was like, are you like doing anything? And I was over there mashing buttons, going to town. I was like, I don't know, maybe. I don't think so. And I would just like to point out that the score, I was playing, or I suppose rooting for, I don't know, let's just say the blue team. I forget who they actually were. And then there was the opposing team. And my team, it was 2-0. So like I was winning by 2 points. And then at some point I paused it and Sage was like, oh, how about you check the like controls or whatever in the settings to see if like you're just missing something. And that's when I found out when you start the game and the game starts playing, you have to pick a team. And I hadn't picked any team.
Yeah. I didn't.
So Clayton definitely wasn't playing the game. And I also wasn't either for 10 whole minutes, and I didn't know. So after that, I selected, of course, the team that was winning. That's what I had set my controller to. I started playing, you know, I was sort of moving around doing some things. I figured out how to shoot. And then I also immediately started to lose. So they were better off without me. I should have just let it keep running like a hockey simulator. Because I guess that is an option.
I never figured it out, so I stopped before yeah. But this would be the perfect like little brother game,
yes,
like, sibling game, where you could just like plug in their controller and just make sure they don't pick the team, and then you just tell them they're playing the other team. It's perfect,
right? Good times. Okay. So that's all.
Yeah. I thought that was really funny that you had the same issue.
Yes.
I didn't look into it at all, so I'm glad you figured out what the issue was.
I know. Well, and it was just because I think I had to pause the game to go do something else, and then I came back to it like quite a while later, and then that's when I was like, oh my god. So if I hadn't even like paused the game ever, I would have never known, and I wasn't doing anything.
That's great. Okay.
Yes.
Anything else to add to NHL 2001 before we move on?
Nope.
Moving on to Wild Wild Racing, developed by Rage Software Limited, 64 on Metacritic. I see that you don't have any notes for this.
I don't think either one of us could play it.
I couldn't play it either.
All right.
I watched some videos of it. It looks perfectly mediocre.
Okay.
Moving on from Wild Wild Racing to ESPN International Track and Field, a sleeper hit of this launch lineup, I must add.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Developed by Konami. I assume published by Konami too. 72 on Metacritic. Metacritic user, I forgot I put this. Metacritic user Jockam gave it a 10 out of 10. Said best game ever. 2 little caret signs.
Okay.
Honestly, one of my favorite things about the PS2's like massive launch library combined with the large install base is that so many people have these like crazy obscure games that they just remember and love. And I love that Jockam N on Metacritic loves this game so much.
Aw, that's sweet.
I see that you don't have any notes for this.
No, well, so here's the thing. I cheated. I read your notes that said essentially a minigame collection. I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not playing that.
Have you played any of the Mario and Sonic in the Olympic Games?
Nope, because I know that I would hate them.
Very similar.
Okay.
It's very similar to that, in that it's just a minigame collection of like Olympic game stuff.
But apparently they're good.
I mean, it's okay. It's fun.
10 out of 10.
Oh yeah, according to him, it's the best game ever. Mm-hmm. I'm just, first of all, blown away that someone made a Metacritic account, got on, just called this game the best game ever. Like, I want to interview this person.
Maybe it's a bot that ESPN paid for.
Yeah. It has some horrendous, like Toy Story 3 Pixar, like early 3D animation feeling stuff going on in that intro, which I loved.
Oh, good.
So yeah, it's like a minigame collection. Most of them, unfortunately, are just kind of button mashers. But like the running stuff, it's like mash to run. And I could not do it. I was getting like carpal tunnel just trying to come in third place. But like trap shooting, I played that one. I'm like, hey, this is fun. You like call the little disc to fly out and then you try to shoot them. It's like, hey, this is fun. I got last place.
Oh.
The AI is ruthless in all these. So.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. Not for the faint of heart.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have too much to elaborate on with this one. It's just kind of fun.
Right.
But yeah, I guess we'll move right on to Tekken Tag Tournament. Developed by Namco, published by Namco. 85 on Metacritic. It is a port of an arcade game. I was surprised to hear that this game sold 400,000 copies in its first 4 days. And I don't really have like a real concept of like whether or not that's good or bad for the time, but it sounds pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's pretty good for the time.
Mm-hmm. I think it went on to sell, I didn't write this down, but I think I remember seeing it went on to sell like 1.4 million by the time it was all said and done.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, this one is well received. I was confusing it with another one. Again, like just no real idea comparing these fighting games. I'm like, I played it. I'm like, that's fun. I guess that's good. This is the one where I played as like a tiger man, and that's all I got to say.
Oh, furry simulator?
Yeah, basically. Moving on. I see you haven't played this like run of games, so I'm like running out of breath.
I couldn't get Summoner to work. That's
okay. The next game on the list, moving on from Tekken Tag Tournament, Summoner, developed by Volition, which I don't know if you know this, but they're based in Champaign, Illinois. I think the studio is no longer operational.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But they until like recently.
Oh, really? Let me look them up.
So yeah, they did Red Faction, Saints Row.
Oh, really?
Oh, they were acquired by THQ Nordic when they filed for bankruptcy. That's it. Wait, no.
No. They're now Deep Silver. They're Deep Silver Volition now.
Yes. Okay. I was jumbling those words.
Oh.
Yeah. So they made that Agents of Mayhem game, which you may have heard of or may not have. It was essentially like an Overwatch hero shooter kind of ripoff. Not super well received. But yeah, Champaign based. So not too far from us. And a fellow Illinoisian. Illinoisan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Published by THQ. There was a sequel, Summoner 2, released in 2002. When THQ went bankrupt, the Summoner IP was sold to Nordic. So we could see a Summoner 3 anytime here. Just saying. Now, excuse me as I kind of read through my notes to remember
your experience.
What this game is.
I couldn't really tell from your notes because I was like trying to like look at them to get a sense. I also could have like looked up the gameplay on YouTube, but I just...
Okay, I did not play this one very...
Okay.
This was a pretty quick quit for me.
Okay.
Just mainly complaining about the controls. I don't know if you had the same issue, but I felt like the dead zone, like for the analog sticks, were like super sensitive.
Okay. I don't think I noticed
for like
that.
most of these games. Like I noticed my character like drifting or the camera drifting. I tested it out on like the 2 PS2 controllers I have, which granted are secondhand and unknown condition, but they seem fine. Like the sticks seem like they're in decent condition, snapping back and everything, but a lot of drifting happening. So I don't know if it's just like, I don't know, people didn't know how to like program dead zones and stuff, because this is still like early in having analog sticks. So yeah, quit pretty early. It looked like it had some like potential. You start out in like this burned village, and you're like, organization is like trying to hunt you down, and you're just like moving around to this. I couldn't get behind the combat.
So what genre is the game?
Oh, this is probably my least played game, Morgan. I gotta be honest.
So do you not know? Let me look it up.
I don't think it was like real-time combat. I think it was turn-based stuff.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out what I was doing and quit.
Okay. Oh, it looks kind of like an RPG.
Yeah.
What? That's weird. Okay.
I feel bad that we don't have too much more to say on this, but
okay.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, it's considered an RPG.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it feels similar to the other two as far as like tone. I don't know. But...
one guy named George S gave it a 0. He says, I bought this game for 15 euros and it was the worst game I have ever played on any sort of game system. It is slow. It is so boring.
Man, George, please, they're already dead.
It has no good fighting. Moves and is one word. I know it's not supposed to be, but it has terrible graphics.
George, no, please. Think of their families. Yeah. I think I actually read that review, weirdly enough.
That was in 2003, so yeah.
So that's all I got for Summoner.
Alrighty. Well,
moving on. Literally the most interesting thing about them is that the developers are geologically near us. Swing Away Golf is the next game, developed by T&E Software. No idea.
Nope.
Published by EA. 78 on Metacritic. Morgan,
I couldn't play it. It didn't work for me. I tried because I saw your notes and I laughed and I wanted to know. I wanted to know what the deal was.
I was getting extremely agitated at this game. So it's it feels like a very Japanese golf game as far as like aesthetic and characters.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of in depth as far as like spin and curve and stuff.
Okay.
And it tries to teach you all of this in the tutorial. And there's this lady who, if you mess up even slightly, is like, I'm sorry, that wasn't good. Can you please do it again? And eventually, if you suck so bad, they're like, well, that wasn't great, but I think we need to move on.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just like the most unforgiving, like cruelest experience I've ever had in a golf game.
Okay.
So like most golf games, it's like a meter, it's like, initiate, and you like watch the meter fill up and you got to time it like at the most power or whatever.
Right.
Dude, there was such a slim margin of error for like whether or not that shot was good or bad in her eyes. And I'm just trying to please her this whole time and I just can't. So that's all I got to say.
I would like to point out, I have another 0 rating on Metacritic by Games Radar, and it says... a mess of half-arsed ideas, evil loading times, and a pace that's shockingly sedate? I don't know.
Sadistic?
No. Like,
sedentary?
Like when you're sedated, like, slow. Yeah. I guess sedate. I don't know how to say that. Well, I don't know how to say that word.
Okay. I really wanted to like this game. I was very excited to see a golf game on here, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
Yes.
Fantavision. Moving on from Swing Away Golf to Fantavision. Wikipedia considers this a puzzle game. It's developed by Sony Computer Entertainment Japan. So this is a first-party release for the system. Metacritic is sitting at a 72.
Which I am shocked by.
Yeah, I refuse to believe that anyone figured out how to play this game. I'll just pass it to you.
Okay.
What did you think?
So, right off the get-go, like when the game first, begins, the first like visuals you get are this like little girl, and then isn't it like an old man walks up to her?
Yeah. It's like 50s kind of aesthetic.
Right. And I was like, what is happening? And then, it plops you in the menu, and you have like, I think there's like several options for like how to play the game. I don't even remember what they were.
Mm-hmm.
There was a tutorial section, and it had 4 sections to it, like basics, advanced, and then it would go on from there. And I'm like, heck no, I'm not sitting through 4 tutorials. I'm just going to wing it, because if this game is so great, I should be able to figure it out on my own. And then I did not.
Yep.
I couldn't tell if it had, so basically what the game looks like, because it's an enigma. It is the most enigmatic thing on this list. It's impossible.
It really is.
To like put a finger on what exactly is happening. But you have like a backdrop of like a city or whatever, and there's like these fireworks shooting up, and I guess you have like your little, I don't want to say cursor, because I think it like automatically locks on. Or do you have to steer over to the fireworks? I don't remember.
I think you like...
Does it like snap to them or something?
I think it snaps to them.
Okay. And then you like trigger the explosion, I guess, and then you have to bounce between fireworks with like this little laser line that shows up around the firework you just did, and you have to like jump between them. But I don't know if you have to match them by colors. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't be bothered, honestly.
Definitely.
So like the best way I could think of to describe it was, I'm assuming the intent of the game is to get you into like this Zen state where you're just destroying all these fireworks or whatever. So it's like, think of like Tetris Effect, how Tetris Effect is kind of like a Zen experience with like the visuals and the colors and everything that's going on, except minus all of the Tetris Effect charm. So like an early 2000s Tetris Effect.
I can see a little bit of I don't know, just it's a slightly more abstract and out there kind of aesthetic for a puzzle game. So I can see the Tetris Effect sort of similarities. I also could not figure out what was going on. My assumption was that you're just meant to like chain together firework explosions as like many as you can. I don't know. Much like Tetris Effect. Although let me rewind that statement. Tetris Effect is fun without drugs. I feel like this game requires some sort of
an altered state of consciousness
to enjoy it. Yeah.
Yes.
I was interested in this because of the fact that it's a first-party game.
And then it's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to put this game in as far as like a category whenever I was like putting together a little spreadsheet for stuff. Guess it's a puzzle game.
That's what Wikipedia said.
Anything else to add to this?
No.
Moving on from Fantavision. Ridge Racer. Is it V or is it 5?
I think it's 5.
I don't recall any other Ridge Racers.
Okay, well then, who knows?
Let me look. I think this is... I don't think there's another Ridge Racer on PlayStation 2 at least.
No, there's there's a PSP game. There's a Ridge Racer 7. Maybe this is Ridge Racer V. I don't know.
Developed by Namco, published by Namco and Sony. This is definitely a game that I associate with the PS2 for some reason, probably because I owned it. Got a 78 on Metacritic. Morgan, what did you think of it?
So again, due to the method I was using to play, I had some texture glitches. So the entire intro cutscene I could not see. I could hear, I could not see. It was just a big green repeating pattern. I had no clue what was going on. The music was pretty nostalgic for me. I remember the menu UI left something to be desired. I thought it was just kind of, I didn't like it. I thought the visuals were pretty good. I think I was having some texture glitches because I remember like if I squinted at the car, I was like, I don't think that's how the car is supposed to look. But I thought like it was cool, like how the surface of the car, like you could tell it was like shiny. They had like some nice like lighting going on there. I thought that was, something. I just thought it was like a super generic racing game. I wasn't like too thrilled or like sucked into it or anything. So
right, yeah. I mean, I also thought it was like fairly technically impressive comparatively.
Yes,
like to the other racing games and stuff. I had an incredible glitch when I started the game that like I don't know if you ended up seeing like the intro sequence, but there's like this girl.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. There's like this girl who's like the same girl on the cover art, and she just did not have a face.
Oh.
Like she had eyeballs and teeth.
Oh no.
And hair.
That's terrifying.
She had like it was everything else, just missing the face. So she had teeth, hair, eyeballs. It was hilariously horrifying. But yeah, I mean, I didn't get too into this. I think I played like one race, came in like last place, and was like, you know what?
Yeah, it seemed really hard. For some reason.
I mean,
yeah,
that was something that I noticed other people had said as well. Looking at like reviews and stuff, it's pretty hard apparently. So that's all I got. That's all I got for Ridge Racer V. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, moving on from Ridge Racer V/5 to Midnight Club Street Racing. Like Smuggler's Run, published by Angel Studios, or developed by Angel Studios, published by Rockstar. 78 on Metacritic. Morgan, what did you think of Midnight Club Street Racing?
So, I said that you have to appreciate the customization. It's pretty run of the mill for racing games, but you could like choose different vehicles and the colors and things like that. I'll take it. I think I was doing like the free roam for the first like few minutes I was playing just to like see, how it felt. I thought the physics were all right. Like handling was fine. Visuals were pretty plain compared to, I guess, other racing games. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah.
It felt pretty like blocky textures and stuff like that.
Yeah. I also noted that at some point I ran into a pedestrian and she just like left. She was on the hood of my car and then flew into the atmosphere and was gone. So that was nice. I played some races. I was surprised by how difficult they were right off the bat.
A little bit, yeah.
I don't know if it might just be me being nitpicky and maybe salty because I lost the race on my first attempt. But I noticed the AI cars like really like to clump together. And also I was annoyed because at one point in the race, the AI driven car ran into a truck head on and it didn't slow down at all. Like it just kept going. Yeah. I was like, wouldn't it make sense for it to like, there to be like a punishment for ramming into another car? But then like they clumped all around me. And then they like spun me out and sent me like flying across the street and I like crashed into a building and had to like do like a U-turn to get back to where I was supposed to be going. And I was like really annoyed because I was like, what the heck? That doesn't feel fair. But it's just another run of the mill racing game. So I don't have too much to say.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. I found the voice acting to be pretty hilarious of like the drivers you're racing against. They have like some pretty horrible accents. They're also like super like aggressive. Feels like they're like pounding on the steering wheel while they're talking to you.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that whenever you selected the London setting, because you can switch between London and New York, it sounded like Taco Bell sound.
It did.
Yeah. I really like Midnight Club as a series, some of the later entries. I like point-to-point racing, like in a city. I think that that's kind of fun because you kind of have to just, you have to like know how to navigate around and like get to certain areas. So I like that. But this game is pretty basic in a lot of aspects. So I didn't put too much time into it. Got anything else to add before we move on?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on to Dynasty Warrior 2. Developed by Omega Force, published by...
I think it's Koei.
Koei, aren't they Koei Tecmo now?
Oh, I don't know.
I remember hearing Koei... Anyway. Metacritic of 75. Morgan, what do you think of this game? Oh, I see.
I couldn't play it. Yeah. I would have. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played it. I didn't finish like a level, but I've never played a Dynasty Warrior game in my life. I kind of know what they are. And I actually really enjoyed this.
Oh, good.
The controls were pretty solid compared to most of the games in the launch lineup. I kind of like the idea. It's also kind of impressive to see so many NPCs running around. There's a pretty like short field of view or like render distance for stuff, but it is still like, oh wow, there's a lot of dudes fighting each other here, staying at like a solid frame rate and everything. It's fun. I don't know if there was like a more deep sort of mechanic system because I was just kind of spamming the same moves over and over again. So
well, and I'm also sure like the first fights probably aren't the most demanding.
No, yeah. But it is fun to have like, I don't know, two armies clashing and you're just like some overpowered dude kind of leading them through it. So yeah, I had fun. One of the more enjoyable games in the launch lineup for sure. Have anything else to add before we move on? Moving on to Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore. This is developed by Team Ninja, published by Tecmo, and has a 91 on Metacritic. So one of the more one of the more well-received games in the launch lineup. Morgan, what did you think of this game?
So, you had played this one before me, and I had glanced at your notes, and you mentioned something about the women being sexualized. Not that I'm all that surprised, considering when this was put out. But so I picked the most sexualized character on purpose because I just wanted to see what was up. Turns out,
isn't it it's the blonde lady, right? With like the
well, so I think it's Tina. Yeah, Tina's the most ridiculous one. The one I picked was Helena. She was like the opera singer. I think she was in like a red suit or something. I don't know. So Helena's outfit wasn't that bad. Tifa's she was just like out there in like her underwear, basically, I think. But the boob physics, I was like, oh, come on. You guys did boob physics? That. Yep. Really? And I talked to my fiance and he was like, oh yeah, no, that's what these games are known for, is the boob physics. And I was like, oh, all right, well, okay, I guess they decided to go with that then. So this was the only fighting game on the launch lineup that I played. And that's after I played this one, that's why I left the others alone, because I was like, well, I know that I'm probably going to have pretty much the exact same thing to say about all the fighting games. And that's that I win the first few fights by mashing like a madman, not knowing what I'm doing. And then I get bodied when the AI gets a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So like in this game, I think there was like a counter system where you could like, counter enemy attacks if you like timed it correctly. And I didn't know how to do that. And I wasn't going to bother to learn how to do that. So I just, as soon as I lost, I stopped. I got the gist that this was ripped from like an arcade game.
Yeah, I think this one actually is.
Yeah.
I may be wrong.
And like on the Wikipedia page, there was like a section dedicated to explaining the mechanics. And it seemed like, there was like a decent amount of effort put into the mechanics. And they seem to be like, the counter system seems to be like actually like pretty well thought out. Just because I didn't bother to learn doesn't mean it's bad. It's just if you don't like boob jiggles or women with very
big old badonkadonks.
Yeah, very unrealistic and unhealthy weight to height ratios, then I don't know. You're not going to like it, but
definitely agree with most of that. I don't know if you know this, but there's actually a spin-off series for Dead or Alive where it's called like Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. And it's like this spin-off series where it's just the women
boobs?
And they're like in
bikinis
playing like sports games. So I didn't play too much of this. It felt like most of the other fighting games. Funnily enough, I did notice that the save icon for this game is a melon. So
is that because boobs or?
I think so. That's what I was gathering from that.
Oh no.
But yeah, really couldn't tell the difference between most of these fighting games. Anyway, anything else to add to Dead or Alive before we move on?
No.
Moving on to Surfing H3O.
Is it like H2O, maybe? Is that the
Yeah, it's like
joke?
H2O.
Yeah. I don't know. Sorry,
Moving on to Surfing H30. Yep. This is developed by Opus, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
Published by Rockstar Games, who published quite a few games for the PS2 launch lineup. Has a Metacritic of 46, so one of the worst received games.
Ha.
I see you don't have anything for this.
I couldn't get it to work.
Yeah, I got it to work, but I couldn't get it to work. I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay.
I literally like wiped out at the start. I couldn't stand up on I gave up.
Okay.
This was getting towards the end of the list. I was just like, you know what? Oh, we're good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready to move on if you are.
Yes.
Okay. SSX, published by EA Sports Big, 93 on Metacritic. I think this might be the most highly rated of the launch lineup.
I'm scrolling back
Maybe
to see
Madden
if you're
beats
right.
it.
Yeah.
I think Madden's like a 92, but it's like this and Madden, I think, for the best. Anyway, one of the most highly rated. It is, unfortunately, I played SSX Tricky before this, which, for those who do not know, is a remixed version of this game that's just better. So going back to this was very difficult because the controls were stiffer, a little bit less forgiving. The characters just did not have as much personality. Courses were worse for the most part. I didn't play too much of it. We'll cover SSX in a different episode because I like the franchise, and I'm going to force you to play it.
Okay.
For that reason.
No, that's fine.
So
I didn't play it this time though.
I see you don't have anything to add
No.
to this. Yeah. Okay. And that's all 28 games.
Wow.
We made it.
Yeah.
It only took 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Right.
To wrap this up,
yes.
let's kind of look at the launch lineup as a whole.
Okay.
Morgan, how do you feel about the genre diversity of the launch lineup?
I say there's too much racing and too many sports games, but I mean,
Yes.
I don't enjoy that genre. I never really have, with like very, very, very few exceptions. And that there's a racing game that I am actually excited to talk about later, and that is ATV Off-Road Fury 2. I actually like that a lot. Yes. But anyway, so the games out of the launch lineup that appeal to me because of that genre bias. But yeah, it was just too much of the same, too samey across the board.
For me, the main thing that I felt was missing was like a 2D or 3D platformer, like something that was more, I don't want to say for kids, but just more like not sports racing realistic or like a gritty sort of RPG.
Right.
I think would have been nice. And that's really the main thing. Like, and moving on to like the individual game quality, it's very clear that like developers don't understand how to, or they're still learning how to like create games in 3D spaces and like control characters and stuff.
Right.
A lot of the environments and stuff were just like bland, even in like the RPGs.
Yes.
Controls were across the board.
Garbage.
Just horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no like standardized like method of controlling a character in 3D yet. There's no, thinking about this now, there's no 2D game on here. I feel like as soon as we like made the jump to 3D, 2D kind of sat by the wayside for a while. Like no one's like interested in 2D games anymore, which is a little sad.
They come back, right?
Yeah, they make a comeback.
Yeah.
But
not for some
what
time.
did you think of the individual like per game quality? Like I know it's not great, but like what did you think of it?
So basically like just a repeat of what I said about Eternal Ring, where it's like it's clear they didn't know or weren't able to develop games that really took advantage of the capabilities of the hardware. So, I mean, like, if you look at, like, launch titles versus later titles, there's just, like, a huge difference. Like, if you look at, I'm trying to take, like, a comparative game. What was the one? X Squad? So, like, if you look at, like, X Squad, which is, like, a 3D, or not 3D, third-person shooter, and you compare it to something, like, even just, like, a couple years later, like, Ratchet and Clank, like, if you look at those two, there's such a vast difference in, like, visual quality.
Definitely.
So,
yeah.
Yep, that's my...
What was the best looking game, non-racing game, in your opinion? Because I feel like Ridge Racer is probably the best looking one.
Yeah.
To me.
The one that made you mad. No, not the golf game. There was
the golf game.
The mech fighter. The mech fighter that made you mad. Which one? Armored Core 2.
Armored Core?
Armored Core 2 looked decent. And
I thought Evergrace looked decent. I mean, we were in different areas because of the characters.
No,
but
I was in like a forested area and it looked like booty. It was not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think...
People like how Madden looks.
I didn't touch that. Oh, yeah, the NHL 2001 looked okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except from the fact that the crowd was like cardboard cutouts of people. And you could
tell.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Yep. Sorry, I've been like a little scatterbrained because I was quietly trying to make more space on my hard drive so I don't run out.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's funny.
Yep. Talked about the genre diversity. It's not super diverse.
No.
The quality's not there either.
Right.
Other than that, like, what do you feel like is missing from this lineup of games?
So I, for some reason, wrote a big rambly paragraph about this, I guess because I felt strongly about it, and I guess I still do. So if you want to try and fiddle with your hard drive more, go ahead, because I'm going to ramble for a while. So at some point during in the span of 2020 to 2022. So like if you're listening to this like years down the road, you know what was going on. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention it by name, but everybody knows. So
you all know what I'm talking about.
Somewhere in that span of time, I found myself turning into like a writing nerd somehow. So I'm like very passionate about narrative and using games to tell narratives. So basically going forward, and what this launch lineup has me kind of concerned about, I think there's going to be a lot of games where the writing and storytelling aspects are just shoved to the side in favor of like gameplay and action. I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad or wrong to choose to prioritize that thing in a video game, because I mean it is like meant to be a game. It's meant to be fun to play. But I feel like a significant portion of modern gamers are drawn to more in-depth and passionately written narratives. So if you look at like some games that are going to come out in the future, I mean like these are older games for us, but you know, they blow the doors off of anything on the PS2. So like BioShock, Dishonored, Red Dead Redemption, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, the new God of War where you have the kid, and Last of Us.
Where you have the kid.
Also where you have a kid, yeah, those two dad simulators. Yeah, so we're not going to find a lot of that depth, that storytelling depth in these PS2 titles. And
yeah, it's true.
I think that has to do with like, you know, back in the day, you're gaming on your PS2 to shoot or to drive or to play sports like a maniac, not to have a philosophical debate over the nature of humanity or revenge or redemption or any of those like more heavy concepts.
Yeah.
But like as a gamer and as a person, I am a sucker for a good narrative. So I'm like mildly concerned that like itch isn't going to be scratched much. That being said, I know that there are some games later down the line in the PS2's life cycle that do have good stories that are worth talking about. And I'm excited to get to those. And also in terms of like back to like what's missing from like the launch lineup specifically, you already touched on platformers, but I know that like there were some good platformers on the PS1. We had, you know, Spyro and Crash, and I was sad that we didn't have something enjoyable like that in the PS2 launch lineup. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's like the main thing that I think was missing. I also think that like some just like one strong like core gamer type title would have been nice. Like a God of War or the Dark Cloud like thing that they were working on. I haven't played that, so I don't know if it's good or not, but like just like something that like could like be like a system seller for people who aren't into like Madden, because I feel like Madden was the only other game that would really get people to go out and buy a PS2.
Yeah.
Also the fact that it's a DVD player, but that's another thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
That's a big reason a lot of people ended up owning a PS2, is just because it was a cheap DVD player.
Oh my gosh.
What game will you remember the PS2 launch library for? Like, what is going to be the standout in your mind?
So the game from the launch lineup that I put the most time in, for better or worse, was Eternal Ring. And I think that's because it stuck out the most to me because it's like part of a genre that I love so much. And because it has, you know, while it's like archaic and kind of stupid and sometimes awful, it has a lot of similarities and similar vibes to Oblivion and Skyrim, which are games that I've put a ton of, probably way too much time into. So it was nice to have something that I was like, oh, this is like a predecessor for like these other games that I love that came along later. That's cool. So yeah.
For me, I didn't like feel like anything really stood out to me, like spoke to me in any way. Time Splitters is just the game that I enjoyed the most. So from that aspect, I'd say that. But I feel like everything here just kind of ranges from bad to mediocre.
Yes.
Like, at least based off my personal taste. Like, I can't really speak to fighting and football, but...
So do you want me to go through my best 5?
Yeah, so let's go through... Give me your top 5 and bottom 5. In order or out of order, whatever you want. I was looking at your list, and I thought that you had one of the games on both lists, which I thought
No.
was funny.
I'm not that disorganized, I don't think.
I thought it was like a statement. Like they're all, yeah.
So we could go through. How about we go through my best 5 and then your best 5?
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
So my best 5 in no particular order. I had Unreal Tournament because it had some of the better visuals and more fun shooting, comparatively speaking. Eternal Ring, again, just because that's my standout game that reminded me of other games that I do like. Evergrace, because I feel like if my initial gameplay experience wasn't so frustrating and confusing, like if I actually understood the game and what was going on, I probably would have had a lot more fun playing it. And that's, so I'm not going to dock it too much for me being blind and not seeing a bow on the bed.
Yeah.
NHL 2001. I know I hate sport games, but you could tell there was like a lot of effort put into this game, and I have to respect it for that. And then lastly, X Squad, just because it was like slightly, the tutorial was handled better. I was okay with the gameplay, and I liked the attempt at stealth and follower mechanics.
Yeah, it was definitely ambitious.
Yes.
I'll give it that.
It tried.
Yeah.
So it gets points.
For me, like working my layup, I have everything in order. So what I would consider my 5th favorite game, I'd say ESPN International Track and Field, because I just found it fun. It felt like a hidden mediocre gem amongst the other mediocre games. Number 4, I put Midnight Club Street Racing. I enjoyed it, I think, the most out of all the racing games here. It just felt like, I don't know. Maybe if I got more into Ridge Racer. Maybe if I got more into Ridge Racer, I would have had more fun, but I don't know. Smuggler's Run was kind of too simple for me. I liked Midnight Club's aesthetic more, even if it was pretty bad. This is just like picking my favorite amongst my least favorites.
Right, yeah.
Dynasty Warriors 2, I put at 3. I found it to just play well, which is basically the criteria. If it has a control scheme that I can wrap my head around.
Right.
For my number 2, I put Unreal Tournament because it felt like a game that I could have enjoyed a lot as a child. Aside from like the horrendous like default control scheme, it had a more normal control scheme, which was like, it's fun. Fairly simple and like mindless, but it's fun. Number 1, I put Time Splitters. I feel like Time Splitters is really, Time Splitters and I guess SSX, but I didn't really like SSX too much because I played the better version of it. So Time Splitters to me, I feel like is one of the only really likable games from the launch lineup. And that's what I got. That's my anticlimactic list of best 5 games on the launch lineup. Moving on to worst.
Oh boy.
Morgan, what do you think are the worst 5 games on this horrendous launch lineup?
It was harder for me to pick out the worst than the best, because there's so much that is just bad. So if that says anything about the launch lineup, I don't know.
The competition for worst was definitely...
It was higher than the competition for best, which is something. Yeah. So I have Fantavision, just because I couldn't be bothered to figure it out or to care. Cue Ball, even though I didn't play it, it's like a pool simulator, and that's, it doesn't have like the fun of motion controls like pool on the Wii would, for example. So it's just doesn't really mesh well with the platform. Gun, Griffin Blaze, just because...
Oh, wow.
I know. I liked it. I don't know.
What an upset.
It's one of the ones where it's like right on the... like. I didn't have like too much fun playing it. And just because the render distance and like the environment design was so boring.
Yeah.
Orphan is on there because the combat couldn't figure that out for the life of me. No instructions, not clear enough. And then I also have another game I didn't even play, Surfing H3O, just because the fact that you couldn't even figure out how to play it and just immediately fell off your surfboard makes me think that sucks and deserves to be on the worst list.
Based off name alone, I feel like it deserves to be on the worst list.
That too.
I like to think that there wasn't a Surfing H2O.
Right, they just skipped.
They just decided to call it H3O.
Or that there is a Surfing H10.
Ready, One Rumble, Boxing Round 1. Yeah, my worst 5, couple similarities on here. So my number 5 worst game, which is the game I liked the 5th most. I don't know. Swing Away Golf, terrible tutorial. Couldn't stand it. X Squad is above that. Is a game I liked less. I know that you liked it, but I just Well, it felt so generic, despite having some like ambitious mechanics. I kept rolling around everywhere. I couldn't take it.
Well, also to be fair, there's like some games that you have on your list on your best list that I didn't get to play, that if I got to play, probably would have knocked X Squad off my list.
Oh, yeah. Armored Core 2, which is really just a vendetta I have against not being able to figure out what was going on. Fantavision, again, I don't know what's going on. Cue Ball Billiards Master is going to sit at number 1, though, because it just feels funny, just rag on this game. So, yeah, I'm doing it. All right, Morgan, did we learn anything from this?
Control schemes have certainly evolved.
Oh, definitely.
And like I said before, the narrative choices, and taking a game's narrative seriously is certainly something from a more like modern standpoint, or a modern aspect. So that's my big two.
For me, yeah, definitely the control scheme thing. We're still figuring out how 3D controls work.
Right.
I felt like this was a nice palate cleanser.
Yes.
Because it's like, I don't know. I feel like maybe if we dove headfirst into like a couple of the games that we actually remembered fondly, we might have just been like, wow, it's not as good. I feel like playing through this trash is going to help us appreciate that a lot more. Obviously, the goal with this is to go semi-chronologically through the PS2, going out of order occasionally. But I feel like we're going to get to see how the system and the developers kind of like learn better control conventions and just like how to make 3D games that actually play well. So,
and the good thing is, like we know that they're gonna get there. We know they're gonna get to better controls because some of our most beloved games are on the PS2 and have good controls. So
yeah,
it's all part of the process.
Yeah. I feel like when we get to Ratchet and Clank and it has like an inverted X-axis or whatever, we're gonna be much more forgiving.
Right. Because it's Ratchet and Clank. How could I not?
Yeah, and we've gone through these just abominations of control schemes. So, yeah, that'll be good. I really liked looking back at like the reviewers of the time and like the criteria that they were judging the games by. I thought was interesting because obviously it's a different time and they're looking for different things, and reviews are subjective and, depends on like when and where and all that. So it was interesting, to see that they hated some of the things that we really needed.
Right.
If we had listened to that one reviewer for Unreal Tournament, who knows where we'd be. The industry it would have ceased to exist if we couldn't have figured out 3D controls. So, yeah.
And that, kids, is why you never accept criticism.
Never
accept
They're
criticism.
Wrong. All right. That was much longer than I thought it was.
Oh, right? Almost 3 hours. Oh, my God. I mean, there's a lot of pauses and like fumbling in there, but...
Oh, yeah. I had to go to the bathroom like 5 times.
Right. Should I stop the recording?
Do we have anything to end with?
Kiss your dad square on the lips. No, that's stolen from another podcast. We can't say that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're going to come back with Jak and Daxter, I think, is the next game.
Well, yeah, just for a sanity check.
It's a sanity, 100%. We were going to do we were going to dive in more chronologically, but we need something.
Right. Give us something.
We are never going to do 28 games in an episode again.
Absolutely not.
No matter how like little we researched and how little we had to say about these, I knew it was going to take for freaking ever.
Yes.
But you know what? We did it. I'm proud. All right. Goodbye.
Yeah. See ya.
Okay, and stop.
Well, hold on. I don't know. I can't tell if I stop. I think it's going. Stop! I can't get it to stop. I did. It's still going. Yeah. The square stop button. Oh my God.